I want to take you through my journey from being a vegan for 14 years to now being carnivore. In 2009, I found myself driving through Hereford, Texas, Cargill and Barras and Tyson Foods, and all the huge cattle feedlots are. It's like one of the slaughter capitals of the United States are there. I tried watching or filming rather. I knew nothing about ag-gag laws, but I tried filming one of the feedlots, and it was so weird to me because I grew up on a farm. I grew up on my uncle's farm with him, and I was always there, and the smells were very different. And I remember just trying to film this spot on one of these feedlots and getting chased off the feedlot and in a high-speed road chase by a guy with a gun chasing me and my now ex-wife for miles and miles. And all that did wasn't like, it didn't keep me, on the track of just doing what I was doing. It launched like massive curiosity in me. And so I went home and I found myself browsing the internet and watching Food Inc. and another film, Speciesism. And within a day, I had cleaned out everything in the house and became an ethical vegan. I was a vegan for ethical reasons. In 2009, after my journey started, I immediately turned to activism. I had to help. I think activism for whatever cause you believe in is a noble thing to do, and it's a required part of what you're trying to do, I think, if you actually believe in something. So as an activist, I still have stickers and videos and all sorts of stuff, but I had stickers. I would go to stores and I'd put like, what's in your meat, or, PETA stickers or whatever. And I would label some of the meats with these stickers, or shampoo or products that test on animals. Other types of activism I did was going to circus protests, and I would also join Anonymous for the Voiceless protests. This is where you wear the mask and you're holding TVs and you're standing in a square and just kind of showing what happens in the animal abuse industry. Other things I did regarding activism was fundraising. I did a bunch of fundraisers, raised money for animal sanctuaries around my area, and donated the money raised to them for whatever they need. I ran singles groups, single vegans meetups, and we'd do vegan bar crawls and vegan camping trips and vegan hiking groups and all sorts of other stuff. I was involved with those. Dated vegans. I was married to a vegan for a while until we ended up divorced. Another story. And, I would vegan only everything, vegan foods, vegan clothing. I was a vegan through and through. And I even got a vegan tattoo. Of course I did. It's what I believed. When I first went vegan, I lost almost 100 pounds in 6 months. I was about 330 pounds when I went vegan, and I dropped to about 235. And it wasn't that difficult when you were just juice fasting and exercising twice a day, not working, plenty of time for sleep, no stress in your life, all that. At some point, I had to start eating normally. I couldn't just juice fast all the time. And even with the juice fasting, I started feeling like I was missing something in my diet. So I introduced foods, cooked foods. I did fruitarian for a while. I did raw whole foods. I did junk food vegan. Did all the different variations of veganism you can. Over time, my health started to decline. I think at first I jump-started myself off the standard American diet and onto the vegan diet. And of course, there's huge benefits there. But I also started to have some deficits. a lot of times you'll have storehouses, vitamins and minerals, essential things you need. And then at a certain point, those storehouses go away, even though it took maybe a few years. My health started declining. I started putting on weight again with carbohydrates. It wasn't sustainable to just juice fast all the time. Started putting on weight. My blood pressure was through the roof. I had sleep apnea, had tons of inflammation. My sexual drive, my sexual health was declining at a rapid rate. Along with along with erections were declining at a rapid rate, and how stiff those erections were. Sensitive topic here, but whatever. Just letting you in. My gums were bleeding. I had rashes happening, flaky skin. I couldn't seem to get away from just my skin peeling and flaking no matter what shampoos I was using. And I know I touched on bleeding gums, but bad teeth. My teeth are really bad off, in my opinion. About a few years after going vegan, I remember I was just drinking something. I barely hit a tooth and it like broke in half. And then I ended up having to have it extracted. And then I went to Costa Rica for a couple months to study abroad. And all the photos I have from being in Costa Rica, I don't have a tooth. And so, yeah, bad tooth health. As a vegan, I didn't care. I was doing this for the animals, and, you know, depending on what extreme of vegan you are or what level of vegan you are, like, that's not a big deal. Like, I'd sacrifice myself for the animals, right? Why not? But that all changed. In 2021, I had a daughter, and I no longer could hold that selfish view. I had somebody I had to be there for. My daughter, Olivia, was born in September of 2021, and it just changed my perspective. I had somebody who depended on me, and I could no longer be just flaky with my health. So what did I do? I cleaned up my diet. I really started to concentrate on being a healthy vegan, really healthy vegan. Went back to more whole foods. I think like only 30% of what I ate was cooked. I was eating organic. I was eating, you know, the color spectrum, the rainbow, potatoes, whatever. The different colors of potatoes, different, you know, trying to keep out the breads and the pastas and keep the oils to a minimum, just eating fresh fruits, eating beans and rice and tofu and quinoa and couscous, and the food's so nice they named it twice. Needless to say, it did not help. It was not enough. My health was getting worse. I was maybe losing a few pounds with the introduction of like intermittent fasting and stuff like that. But really, I was just still having sleep apnea. My blood pressure was out of control. My doctor was worried about me, started me on lisinopril. I would come home crazy fatigued from work, just crash out. Probably because of sleep apnea. I'd wake myself up at night. I wasn't getting good core sleep. The skin problems weren't going away. Things just weren't improving, even though I was improving the way I was eating. So yeah, tried being a better vegan. Just wasn't working. The woman I am now married to, but at the time I was dating, the mother of my child was a carnivore, which didn't win me any points in the purity tests of the vegan culture, right? Depending on what culture, what subculture, subgroup you're in under the vegan umbrella, dating outside of the vegan group is a big no-no. And I promoted that for a long time. Like, don't do it. You know, only true vegans do, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I was a purist. If you weren't like the best vegan on the planet and you didn't stick to your own, well, you were no friend of mine, no vegan I really wanted to hang out with, and your idea of what would make the world better was not my idea. So dating somebody who was not a vegan really, I think, lost me a lot of respect, which is fair. I think people started slipping away from me because I was a hypocrite, right? Why would anybody want to hang out with a hypocrite? Now, I was still vegan and I was dating her, but she was not only not a vegan, she was a carnivore, which was a complete sin, but she was fascinating. And she was carnivore for health reasons. She actually wants to be a vegan. You know what I mean? One of the things that when I was a vegan, one of the things that I always said was, if everybody just ate the vegan diet, they'd be healthy. And even while my health was declining and I was completely ignoring that reality and still being vegan, I would convince my wife, who at the time and still is carnivore, to try to just eat vegan foods. I would introduce her to other vegans with similar ailments as her and have them talk, and hopefully she would take away some of what they could eat, sweet potatoes, whatever, you know. But every time she tried to humor me and eat a vegan diet, she got deathly sick. And this really began to put a crack in my ideology. I think that I started to, and this, you know, like with most things, most worldviews, really sticking to your own group ensures that the group survives, because the moment you step outside and start interacting with the rest of the world and being confronted with different ideas and different things, it really starts to break down your own thought process, or at least it can. That's the fear. That's why you stick to your own. So this was happening. I wasn't really putting it all together, though. Like, it really wasn't happening consciously. It was more like under the skin, these things were happening, in the subconscious. Another thing I like to do is watch survival shows. I like the outdoors, I like adventuring, camping, whatever. And so survival shows were pretty huge. And I'm noticing, like, as I'm watching these survival shows, all the vegetarians and vegans are really struggling. Like, they are falling apart, which challenges some of the science behind veganism. Some of the vegan groups I hung out with and was a part of suggested that meat eating is relatively new and veganism is what brought us about, or not veganism, but plant-based eating really brought us to the forefront of life and evolved us to what we are now. While I think that's partially true, I also do not think that you can survive while just eating you cannot survive while just eating a vegan diet out there. Watching these survival shows really made that clear and added to another crack in the ideology. Jenna never really was convincing me to go carnivore, but she was just eating carnivore, and I saw when she was having good health results, and I wasn't, and I was trying to figure out ways to be more healthy. I started listening to all kinds of health podcasts and different perspectives on different things, and I started running into other things that started putting little pigeonholes in my ideology when it comes to agriculture and farming practices and all sorts of other stuff. Just listening to random podcasts about all this stuff really put a damper on what I thought I knew, or at least challenged it. About 1.5 years went by, and I was quietly in my head just challenging my own belief system, still being vegan, but I was at a point now where my sleep apnea was so bad that I could not ignore the fact that I was slowly beginning to die. A lack of sleep and just blood pressure issues and skin issues, and again, sexual appetite were still on the decline in huge ways. Depression was setting in, and all these other things were happening. And it was really becoming apparent I had to change. And like just changing the way I was eating within the vegan diet and adding supplements and adding this and that was not cutting it. Something was really wrong. So I decided to try carnivore. I thought to myself, well, I could always just go back to being vegan. Like, I'm just going to try it. Pretty much immediately, like, things started turning up. Within 2 weeks of going carnivore, and I mean carnivore, just basically meat, butter, and eggs and salt and water. Within 2 weeks, sleep apnea was gone. The rashes on my skin started going away. My gums stopped bleeding. I was getting way better sleep. Sexual health was on the rise. I just felt great. I felt younger, more youthful. My skin was vibrant. I felt more energy. My brain fog was gone. I was having a much better time just navigating life day to day, interacting with my family, interacting with my daughter. One of the things that didn't go so well, or at least I think probably wouldn't have gone so well, is friendships. All of my community was based in the vegan group. And so there are vegans right now, friends right now that I have not told I'm carnivore to. And that, I've been carnivore almost 2 years. With some of my friends, like I would text them and keep the conversation going. And I just decided I'm just going to stop texting and see what happens. And it turns out if you stop texting them and you were always the one to initiate those texts, they don't text you. And then like 2 years can go by before you even hear from them again. So it's pretty interesting. But there's a lot of people I told I was carnivore to. Some of them dropped off. And more importantly, some of them stuck around. Some of my vegan friends were really friends, not just friends because we were vegan. And so I do have some friends that I stick it out with. Now, because of all this, my friends group has gotten a lot smaller. But overall, I'm healthier. I feel better. My doctor says empirically I am better. Scientifically, the data shows I'm doing much better and not having to take nearly as many medications or supplements or anything like that. And I'm thriving. When I first went vegan, I was 330 pounds. I went down to 235. I crept back up over the years to 290. When I went carnivore, I was about 290 and I dropped down to 215. Now, I hadn't been 215 since high school and I felt great. And it was just the way I was eating. I wasn't doing like many workouts and all sorts of stuff. The problem is last year I got married and went to Peru. When we went to Peru for our honeymoon, I just decided to eat whatever. I was eating vegan foods and non-vegan foods and, when in Rome. So went to Peru, said, oh, just for the honeymoon, we're gonna splurge, right? And it really hasn't stopped. And, I'll go over my friend's house and I'll have what they're cooking and they're vegan. And I swear, like every time I eat over their house, vegan food, whatever, I feel gross. I don't feel good. And I haven't felt good since cheating. And I feel like I'm back on the vegan diet again. Like it feels like that. I just feel sick. And so I really need to buckle down back on carnivore. Listen to your body. If you need to change your diet, change your diet. Whatever your motivation is. For me, it was my daughter. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back and the things that really made me start questioning my perspectives and my worldview, it was my daughter. I just want to be around for her, and I want to be around for my wife, and I just want to enjoy life, and I want to feel healthier. And unfortunately for some of us out there, it means we can't eat a vegan diet. It's just not the best for us. For those of you who can, though, I do think you should eat a vegan diet. I am no longer vegan, but veganism was a major part of my life. And the people I met and the things I did and what I learned will forever be a part of me. I am who I was, and I am who I am. And just like a snake sheds its skin, moves into a new form, I'm also consistently and constantly moving into a new form. And that's okay. I am not here to say veganism is not a noble endeavor. I think veganism can be an ideology within this world that helps create balance. And I think vegans are needed. And that line of thought is needed. To consider animals, to consider others as a way not to invoke harm unnecessarily is a good thing. But it's not for everybody. And that's a lesson the vegans need to learn. Is not everybody is going to be vegan, and not everybody can be vegan, and to have differing perspectives in the world to create balance within the world is needed. Anyways, thanks for listening. Tell me about your journey down below, if you've ever been vegan or carnivore, if you've tried either method. Let me know about it. Like, subscribe, share. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.